It's finally time to compare the best-selling car in the world, the Tesla Model Y, with the new, refreshed, updated version, Juniper. This one, we're gonna look at the exterior differences, but also the interior changes. But more importantly, we're gonna look at things like efficiency and comfort. So we're gonna drive both cars, do a range test, first off on our 80 kilometers long test cycle, but also a high-speed test, and then focus on things like suspension, driving comfort, but also, in particular, cabin noise. Is this car more silent? Is it more comfortable? We're gonna see about that. Welcome to It's Only Electric. Let's start. Let's start with the frontal design, and as you see, there is a big difference. I mean, this is the older Model Y with the classic Tesla design here with a central headlight unit. Compared to this one, we have a light bar going through the whole front end, one of the longest light bars in the industry. And another big change is actually, this is only the daylight running lights, and the actual headlight unit is placed lower down below. And we also have a much bigger air intake going into the wheel arches for optimizing the airflow. But all in all, a bit sleeker, but also a bit more anonymous looking front. I mean, we don't have any logo here at the top anymore. And I mean, a lot is made to make the car more slippery and more aerodynamic. And of course, to be able to crank out more range out of the car to make it a better choice. One of the areas of changes is underneath the hood here. We still have a lot of frunk space, which is really practical and good. This one has moved on. This is the washer fluid filler. It was actually placed up here in the old model, so it's more convenient to place now. Another difference is the pedestrian safety. There is an active hood protecting pedestrians if you crash into them, so please avoid that. That's also why the hinges here look a bit different. Another slight updates for the aerodynamics is the rear view mirrors. They are slightly changed. You see the line here, the top part looks a bit different. That's for the aerodynamics. And to the biggest and most obvious change, that's the rear profile of the car. I mean, this is totally rebuilt, totally redesigned. Everything from how this pillar looks to the air spoiler, and especially to the rear taillight design. You have the illumination here. It's indirect, so it's reflecting outwards and not like uplit directly outwards. So that's a different take compared to other cars on the market. But what they have done, they have went from doing single parts, because that's cheaper to do, to split the car into more small parts to be able to keep the repair costs low. One obvious way of seeing that is the split line here between that part, the lights, and then the third part here. So there's a lot more parts. So if you get damaged, it will probably be a lot more cheap to replace the parts. That also goes for this one. As you see, this is a one part instead of having one single part in the old car. Another change is the bumper design. As you see now, there is a real bumper on this car. At least it's sticking out more than in the previous version. This makes it a bit more convenient when parking. I mean, if you hit something slightly, that will not damage the paint on the car, and you will spare a lot of repair costs in that manner too. Let's have a look in some practical aspects. You open the front from here. The camera has actually been replaced or changed position. It's a bit higher now than before. Boot looks fairly similar to the older version, but it's actually more practical. First off, you see this one. The partial shelf has actually been split into 4 parts instead of 3 parts as in the old one. Good thing is also that you can stow this one away, and you still have this great amount of space underneath, but this one is possible to hide away, and you can still take it with you. That's also possible to stow away, and we have in total a lot of space. That also goes for the older version, but this seems to be a bit more thought through. One very welcome difference is also the powered rear seats. It's still a 3-split, so 40, 20, 40, but now you can electronically fold the seats, but also fold them up again. And that's really convenient. Let's take them back up. You will save a lot of time and also some effort. I mean, you don't need to use the levers, then go back and put it up manually. Better materials. In the old one, you have plastics in this part. Now you have fabrics. So this will also help lowering the cabin noise. As you see here, there is no taillight present here. It's on top of the lid, which means that you need to have replacements, because if you run with the boot open, you need to have lights. And that's the replacement light one. And that does not exist on the old version because it's not needed, because the taillight is still present when opening the boot. Let's start with the back seat. One thing that I have noticed, that there is a slightly better closing sound on the door. Even if it's frameless, I mean, still think it's good at the old version too, but this one is slightly better, both in the front and at the rear actually. One obvious change is the rear screen, 8-inch infotainment screen here at the center console, 2 USB-C ports underneath that. From now on, there's also active air ventilation here, so it's digital, so you need to adjust the flow from the screen here at the rear. You can also control things like media, source, volume, but also the seat heating is from now on possible to control here from the rear screen. This is really convenient and makes it a lot easier for the rear passengers. I don't know if it's the best thing to have for like watching movies. I think the screen is a bit misplaced for that, but it's still a lot better than not having it. And I think this is a welcome update. When it comes to comfort, I mean, as the old Model Y, the rear seat is really comfortable, and the seats is nice. I have decent thigh support. I really like the perforated white seats here. This is kind of my favorites. We have a armrest without a thing to put it with. This is cushioned and well positioned. It's fairly wide, so you can really share it with your rear companion. 2 cup holders, adaptive as usual. And overall, I think the materials, the amount of space is as great as in the old version. This one though feels a bit more sophisticated when it comes to the materials, especially here at the door sides, the door trims. I mean, the ambient lighting, this is a very welcome change. I have really complained about cars not having ambient lighting here at the rear. The Model Y, the old one, didn't have it anywhere. So this is really a big lift. I like the mix of materials. You have the gray fabrics together with the white soft touch leatherette, and it's quite a good quality compared to other cars. I mean, the materials even at the lowest part is really soft and gives us a good quality feel. It's filtered everywhere, so don't expect any rattles or miss sounds coming from things left in the pockets. Really nice. These ones are also more premium now, and headroom as always, over a fist full of headroom. In the old version you could adjust the backrest, the angle of the backrest. Now it's in the most reclined position. The update in this one is that it is mechanical, electronic, so you have a controller here at the side of the seating position, and as you see, this is the most straight up position, and you see the difference. You see the delta between the 2 seats. That's the max reclinement, and this is the straightest position. So this will still give you a pleasant drive. I mean, it's still not too straight. You can really drive this way, but if you want to have a real comfortable seat and travel longer trips, this is a more restful position. Here from the rear, when no one is sitting on this position, you can actually fold the seat by pressing it a bit harder. That one goes down, but it also adjusts the front seat. So if the headrest touches that one, it will avoid it, because it's programmed to be able to give this decent space or enough of space to be able to fold down. That's one of the biggest hassles in my car, because I always need to adjust the front seat before folding the rear seat, because it will always hit and get stuck at this position. At this place, you will actually avoid that, because as you see, this is really smart. And this is things you do with software. This is why software is so important. So now to the front seat, and this is actually the first time I sit in this car, so I'm excited to try it out. Doors sound better, as I said earlier. When it comes to the seats, I'm very used to the seats in that one, and they are very similar. These ones though are ventilated, and as you see, perforated, and I feel a slight difference. They feel a bit more firm and a bit deeper. The cushioning, the seating part is a bit deeper than in the old one. I think so, at least. There is not a giant difference. I mean, both seats are really comfortable. This is almost exactly on par with that one, but a bit firmer and a bit deeper. That's my initial feeling. I still miss a extendable thigh support. That's sad. I mean, they could have added that as an extra option for taller people like me, because I'm really lacking a bit of thigh support in both cars. Steering wheel is totally new. It's looks better, looks a bit more modern, looks a bit more sporty, and you have some more details in it. You have more controls. For instance, you have the headlight controls here to the left, where you can turn on and off the headlights and turn on the high beam actually. And underneath that you have the washer fluid to control the windshield wipers. That's also good, because the stalk to the right is actually missing. There is no stalk here. There is no gear selector. You only have one single stalk without any buttons. The only thing you have is the possibility to signal left or right. And that one feels, it's like a unipart, so I'm not sure about the feeling. You try the car. What do you think? Did you like it?
No, not that much. I think it feels a little bit plastic.
Okay.
And when you press it, it feels like it deforms. Like a little bit soft if you press it too hard.
And you mean it's like the plastic is a bit too
It feels a bit
soft?
flimsy.
It's a bit flimsy. Okay, I haven't tried it, so I can't say it. Maybe at the end of this video, let's see about that. But I'm glad that they kept it anyway, because I think I have tried the Highland, the Model 3 up to the Model 3 version, and it has the signaling lights to the right of the steering wheel. So you need to press it, and that really makes it hard, especially when doing sharp turns, or like you're gonna signal when you're in a roundabout. Then that doesn't make sense. This one is a lot more convenient, so I'm glad that they kept it. But the overall design is really revamped. It's a totally new car on the interior. The dashboard is newly designed, and there's a unipart feeling here too, and the fabrics on top of the active air ventilation and the ambient lighting going through the whole front really makes the car look and feel a bit more premium than before. And it goes well hand in hand with the updated Model 3, so the interior is really more in line with that car now. You still have the Qi chargers in a really convenient place. Double Qi chargers, and this is a bit deeper, so it's a bit more detailed than the other one. Another nice detail is that if you're driving with the card and not your phone as a key, you actually put the key card here instead of here. And that's this was really, I don't know who really came up with that idea, because putting a card here means that it will disappear immediately when you drive away. The midsection is totally revamped too. The cup holders is actually hidden. If you want it to be hidden, you can still close the front compartment to make it look clean, and you can close it completely if you just want it to disappear. And I like this clean thinking. It makes the interior more like relaxing, at least for me. I think it's time to take a drive. I mean, we have went through all the most important details. I mean, there's a lot of videos going through the differences in the cabin and the exterior. I think we should more focus on range and cabin noise and comfort comparing these two cars. Let's go. So it's time to start the range and consumption test. We're gonna do this as usual. One big difference is that you don't have any gear selector anymore, so you do that on the screen. So you put it forward and you put it into drive. Let's move. We're actually leaving with both cars now, and we're starting the range test. And as I always say, trying to explain the basics of the test, we always drive the same stretch of road, so it's a 80 kilometers long test drive, and the mixed speed is 93 kilometers. That's the average speed per hour. So it speeds between 50 all the way up to 110 kilometers per hour. So it's a mixed track, and it will give us a good understanding of which car that actually is the most efficient one. I mean, it's probably obvious, but we're gonna see how big the difference actually is. We stick to a certain set of rules, always stick to the speed limits. We always keep the AC on 20 degrees in auto, and the drive mode, there is no drive mode, so it's set to chill. When we check the dynamics here, and the drive, the deceleration or the recuperation is set to standard. That's the highest amount of region. So I get an immediate feeling of that the cabin is a bit more silent, for sure. And for your information, guys, the Model Y is a performance version, but driving on 19-inch wheels, Nokian Hakka Pelitta R5 studless Nordic winter tires, 255s, 45 all around, and the tire setup is exactly the same as in this one. Also 19-inch Nokian 255s, so the same tire setup. So that's actually really good. And as you know, the biggest difference between the consumption between performance and the long-range all-wheel drive is the wheel size. That's the biggest factor of efficiency when it comes to the difference between those two cars. So most of the difference will be gone since it's driving on the 19-inch wheels. So the comparison is not 100% perfect, but I still expect this one to be slightly more efficient, of course. But how much more efficient is it? That one has a rated WLTP range with 21-inch wheels of 514 kilometers. This one has 586 with the 19-inch wheels. So I've tried the efficiency on the performance version, and it's really efficient with the 19-inch wheels on. So the difference will probably not be super big. Both are, of course, equipped with the heat pump. And yeah, still exciting. Back to the cabin noise. It feels slightly more silent. We're gonna measure that because it's very hard to feel that with your ears only. You need to have the right instruments for that, and I have that, so that's the next step in this test. So Tesla states that the refresh is not only a refresh, it's a total new car, because it's like 70% renewed when it comes to the parts. I think that sounds a bit high, 70%, but that's what Tesla states, and I need to, trust that. One update is, of course, the suspension. So the suspension, according to Tesla, has been retuned, refined, and provides us a better comfort compared to the old one. The old one behind me is a performance version from Giga Berlin. So it has a slightly sportier suspension. And if you have tried a Tesla Model Y earlier or before, you know that it's a bit stressed in the vertical alignment. So bumps, etc. is fairly harsh, and that's independent of which version you go for. The suspension is more to the sportier side. It's not that comfortable. And now he is actually overtaking me because we are taking turns of who is at the front. But back to the point. The suspension on this one feels slightly better. It feels slightly optimized. It feels slightly more comfortable, but still not still missing some things here, and it still feels like it's stressed. It still feels a bit harsh, still feels a bit bumpy in the vertical alignment. It is slightly better. I feel that, but it's not night and day. It is really not, doesn't feel like totally a different car. So a great addition that I didn't mention when looking at the exterior of the car is the addition of a front bumper camera. You can activate the cameras by pressing this camera icon on the steering wheel. As you see, rear facing and to the sides. And the rear facing camera has been upgraded and it's placed a bit higher, but also redesigned to be able to redirect airflow and the water and avoiding the camera to be that dirty that quick. But the good thing is actually the addition of the front bumper camera. So I'm really happy to see that, because I'm missing that on the cars without the park assistant functionality and the parking sensors. Another great thing is that they actually added a washer. So there is a button here, you press it and it actually cleans the camera for you. And this is maybe one of the best additions and changes to the car. Okay, so we just hit the halfway. My average consumption, as always, the Model Ys and the Teslas in general are so efficient. 145 watt hours per kilometers, that's 14.5 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. 14.5, that's really good. I mean, given the conditions, it's 5 degrees Celsius outside, semi-damped roads, so a bit wet, so not the perfect conditions actually, but still okay. And I actually have Emre, my brother, on the phone. Let us check in the consumption. What's your consumption currently?
Yeah, hello. My average consumption right now is 15.0.
Okay, so 15.0 compared to 14.5. That's 0.5 in the actual difference. Really low difference, but still more efficient.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see how this ends. So I have tried out the new sound system. It's slightly upgraded with some new speakers. Before I listened to it, I was thinking like, okay, the sound system in the old one is so good that it almost can't get any better for the price point. I mean, it's one of the best sound systems I have ever tried, especially in this price level. But I'm blown away because the details and the punch, the bass, the clearness of the updated sound system in this one is even better. And you really hear the difference. Especially, I've tried out some club music in higher volume and it's really, really good. So great has evolved to even greater. And for this price point, I mean, you can't get a car with this sound system for this price point. I'm pretty sure about that. If you do know any other car that beats this sound system, let me know in the comments below, because I don't. I'm not trying to like overhype this car or the sound system, but it's really good. It is. Another update I haven't read about is the blind spot detection light. So there is a red LED light hidden behind the fabrics of the speaker cover, the tweeter. So when there is a car approaching from each side, it will turn on that red light. So it's getting dark. It has been a busy day. We have been working a lot with this car. I mean, we have it for 24 hours only. Normally we work with cars for a week. So we have been trying to squeeze in as much as possible. Let us start with the range test. I mean, we did our regular cycle of range test.
8 kilometers.
Yes, and we ended up in a slightly surprising result, I would say. And the final consumption was 15.8 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers for the old car. So 15.8. And for the new one, this one, 15.3.
Yeah.
So that's 0.5
0.5.
in a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that translates into full range, since they have the same battery capacity, of 490 kilometers for this one. That's actually 84% of the stated WLTP range. For that one, 475 kilometers.
Yeah. And it's a little bit shocking, right?
Yeah. The actual difference is 15 kilometers in total range. But keep in mind that is the performance version,
Yeah.
but running on the same setup of tires.
But not the same wheels.
Not the same wheels, doesn't have aero caps.
No. It's lower.
This one is lower than the old long range all-wheel drive. But it's still 7 millimeters higher than the performance version of the old car.
Yeah.
So 7 millimeters would add some extra range, because the lower the car is, the better it is for the air resistance.
Of course.
But this car is reworked, so it should be a bit more efficient when it comes to aerodynamics. I mean, the side view mirrors, the frontal design, the rear design, the aero caps, etc. So that should weigh up against that one.
It should, and also that's the performance. So
That's a performance. So it
100
has-
horsepower at least more
Yes.
than this one.
Yeah.
It's a bit shocking.
It's a bit shocking, but it's still more efficient than that one. But it's by a very small margin. But it's at lower speeds. I mean, 93 kilometers per hour in average speed. So what we did, we took it for a 120 kilometers test too, both cars. And the average consumption for this car was then 19.8 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers in 120 kilometers per hour, constant speed.
And the old one was 20.3, right?
Yes. So again, 0.5 in a difference. So that's very consistent.
Yeah.
We did this the exact same time, same road conditions, 5 degrees outside, semi-damp roads. We didn't drag each other. We kept distance. We changed the leading car, etc. So we did everything we could to be able to create as consistent and as accurate result as possible. Yeah. So still, surprisingly low difference.
Yeah, I thought it would be more
Yeah.
than 0.5.
Yeah, that's not much.
How much is that percentage-wise?
I mean, percentage-wise, I don't know, because I'm not a mathematician. But
Maybe 2.5%?
Yeah, maybe somewhere in that ballpark, 2.5.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
something.
the total range in 120 kilometers per hour with this car is then 379 kilometers.
When you drive constant 120
Yes.
kilometers GPS speed,
GPS speed. So at the odometer it was
123.
speedometer. Yeah, 123 kilometers per hour. So that's the GPS speed. And compared to that one, that actually got 369 kilometers. So that's the difference is exactly 10 kilometers.
Yeah. Almost margin of error.
Yes.
Almost, but
Yeah,
we did it
but
at the
we
same
did-
time. So
We did all we could to be as fair as possible. I think one thing to keep in mind, and that one has a spoiler at the rear that
Yeah.
would eat a little bit of range. At the same time, the wheels, the tires are worn in.
Yeah, but it doesn't have any aero caps.
It doesn't have an
Again,
aero caps
so-
because this car is totally new. It has went like the odometer says 700 kilometers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
was
so it's
before.
just a couple of days, maybe a week old. We have also double checked the air pressure, the PSI, 42 in both cars, so exactly the same.
Yep.
So that's also something to factor out on the same tires, same dimensions. So this is the best we could do to create a consistent result.
Yeah, I was expecting more.
Yeah, a bigger difference.
At least.
Yeah, because this one should be more efficient.
Yeah. And now we're comparing the long range against the performance.
Yeah, so
Again.
if we get hold of a long range, brand new of the old model,
Should be.
the difference should be even less
Yeah.
with aero caps, etc. So you'll probably not buy this car because of increased efficiency, because I think the increased efficiency is maybe more prominent with the new summer tires,
Yeah.
because this is winter setup. So that may be the biggest gain when it comes to efficiency.
So that's a good news actually, because then you can use the new tires on older cars.
Yeah,
Because
and
it's better tires.
yeah, you can put those tires on the old car and gain range.
Yeah.
That's interesting. You could maybe
Really
you could
interesting.
gain like 15 or 20 kilometers
Could
with
be.
with new tires on your old car. Yeah. we're just speculating here, but
Yeah.
it seems like the tires are really making the big difference here when it comes to range. The second thing is the noise. Also interesting. I mean, this is upgraded car in a lot of aspects, and it's for sure more silent.
Yeah, it is.
We felt a slight difference before measuring the sound.
Yeah.
And we actually discovered, I mean, this is the final result. We put them here next to each other and you will see like the difference. In average, this one is 1.5 decibel more silent than the old car.
Yeah.
And that's a lot. I mean,
It is. It doesn't sound a lot, but
it doesn't sound a lot, but it makes a difference.
it does.
And I think the biggest difference is in 110 kilometers per hour. That's 3 decibels of a difference.
And that's the most important speed. Right?
Yeah, that's the most important speed. The speed you almost, that's the speed you keep for longer times.
Exactly.
Because in lower speeds, in 50, there was no difference at all, actually. I mean, that's within the error margin.
Yeah, it was.
So in high speeds, it's more silent.
Yeah.
And that's what they are promising too.
Yeah, but 3 decibels is...
3 decibels is a lot. Because
It is.
this one suddenly plays with a lot of other premium cars when it comes to interior noise.
Especially Chinese and German cars.
Yeah, yeah. Because the old one doesn't.
No,
It's a bit too noisy.
Yeah.
What do you think about suspension and the comfort, the ride comfort in general? Do you feel any difference?
It's a little bit better, but again, I thought it would be even more difference between the cars.
Yeah.
Like you can feel it's a little bit more quiet, as we said, but also a little bit more damped, but not as much as I thought it would be.
You expected more? Because they stated something like 51%. I don't remember the exact statement, but it was like 51% more comfortable or better to handle some conditions. I don't feel those 51%.
No.
And that is a German-built Model Y from Berlin, Giga Berlin, so it has the updated suspension that those cars got. But it's still a bit stiffer than this one, and it's a bit lower.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really, this one doesn't take away the harshness of the suspension. It's still to the sportier side. It's still pretty hard.
It is.
It's sporty.
And this is the long range.
This is long range.
That's the performance.
That's the performance one. So it's not
that much of a difference.
No, the difference is surprisingly small.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So we have the same type of understanding. And we have taken turns driving the car. So I think we have driven it at least almost even.
It is a difference, but it's a really small difference.
Yeah, it's to the better, of course.
Yeah.
It is to the better. But it is not night and day. What's your final thoughts about the car? Would you I mean, if you were in my position where you have a lease that's running out of time and you need to think of a new car, would this be a upgrade worth going for you?
Like the Teslas or like an iPhone.
Yeah.
It's an obvious choice.
It's the iPhone of EVs.
It is. Yeah. You have the charging network, you have the comfortability, you know how everything works. It's reliable.
Yeah.
You have the software, everything works great
efficient
all the time.
It's
the most efficient car.
Yeah.
Like it's cheap to operate. I wouldn't upgrade if I had a long leasing left.
If you have a brand new or a couple of months old Model Y, it wouldn't be worth the change.
No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't.
No. Because I agree with that. And I think the biggest change for me is the interior.
Yeah.
The looks and the feel of the materials. The seats, I don't feel any particular difference. Maybe it's a bit more firm, it's a bit deeper, but it's such a small difference that I don't think anyone would notice the difference.
No, it's like a little bit evolution, not a revolution.
It's an evolution, yeah. And you have cooling in this ventilated seats. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
And I like the ambient lighting. I like the materials and the quality as in general. It's a notch up from the old one.
It is.
But that one is not bad.
No, it isn't.
Both of them are Spartan. That's more or less the concept of the cars.
Yeah.
So that's the same. That's no difference. This one can feel a bit more premium because of
it
this.
does.
It's a bit more of a different material mix, etc.
Yeah,
But otherwise, it's more or less the same.
it is. Like I prefer the looks, both inside and outside.
You prefer the exterior
Yeah, I do.
over the old one, and I'm actually not sure
Yeah,
because it feels like it's almost a Cybertruck design.
yeah, it
If you
is.
look from the front. At the rear is not.
No,
I mean, the Cybertruck looks a bit very different.
yeah, of course.
But for me, it feels like the old car has a more overall, throughout thinking design. The sides matches the front and the rear. I don't think that the sides of the car matches the front.
I understand what you mean.
Yeah, that's my take on it. But I still
I
like
feel
the
like the-
exterior. But I'm
yeah.
not sure. Maybe I can get used to this one. I think maybe in a couple of months this will look better for me. I'm not sure. But currently, I'm not really sure if this looks better than the old one.
Yeah. And for me, it's one of the best looking cars in this segment,
Yeah.
especially for the price.
For the price, you get so much in this class.
I cannot name another car that looks better.
Okay,
Like for this price range,
for this price range, yeah.
it's not an Audi A6.
No.
That's a couple of $100,000 more, or
No, I mean
euros, or a Q6.
Q6.
Is it better?
But you have other
But
cars like the G6,
This one looks better,
yeah,
both inside and outside.
and the Zeekr 7X. That's tougher, isn't it?
That's tougher, yeah.
Yeah. Let us like spare that one to later.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's do that.
Yeah. Should we wrap up?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's all for today. And as we always say, like, subscribe, and engage. Share your thoughts. Let us have a discussion. We're both helping out, answering questions. So if you have any specific question about how often he's going to the gym or something else, feel free to ask us those questions. Yeah,
That's it.
that's it.
And that's what we say.
Yeah.
Stay
Stay
electric.
electric. Thank you for watching. Speak to you soon.